Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Tuesday. It's the Hail Varsity Radio Network, 1-800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com and absolutely follow us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and different Twitter handles to check out: ESPN Lincoln and Omaha's ESPN 590, and for sure Hail Varsity. At Hail Varsity is where you go. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll spend time with Mitch Sherman, get his take and impressions from the open practice yesterday, marching towards Ireland as that is nearing, as some topics to get into with Mitch. So Mitch Sherman in 15 minutes in hour two. Rick Kaczenski, longtime coach for Nebraska and Iowa, assistant with Coach Holtz, played for Coach Holtz. Also spent time at South Carolina. Coach Kaz, we always catch up with him on Tuesdays if you're new to the show, and we love talking ball with him. As we wind down this Tuesday, Mike St. James will be with us. Old Sparty. We will recap and review the third to last episode, Elijah, of Better Call Saul. Did you see last night? Are you caught up? Where are you?
I'm not caught up, but I did catch parts of last night. Not the entire episode, but I don't think I've mentioned this on the air. I've mentioned it to you, Schmitty, though. Former producer of Hail Varsity Radio, Will Bauer, now with Nebraska Public Media, he moved into my house over the weekend. He needed a short-term place to stay, and my house seemed like a good option. So he moved in, and he's a big Better Call Saul fan. So I got to catch some of the episode last night in preparation for today, but I'm still not caught up on the show as a whole.
Okay. So we will spoil a little bit, but it's not one of those earth-shaking, whodunit, momentum-changing shows. It was a good show, but it was one of those setup shows. So let's dive in. Had a chance to spend time with some friends out in Vegas this week. Just on a couple of different shows. That's a humble loser brag, forgive me. But I'm just saying, yeah, and their take and question mark is that 7.5 number. Handley was talking about the anonymous coaches. We're moving into camp season, and Northwestern and Nebraska are early because they go first. That's why there's camp to get into. When we talk win totals and 7.5, that still has me intrigued. Are you ready? Have you, as a Nebraska fan, made your mind up with the win total? Are you ready to push your chips to the center of the table? You're going 4, you're going 5, you're going 6, you're going 7, 8 or more. Or are you still in wait and see mode? Because eventually that garage poster gets filled out. Eventually, it's ink, not pencil. And does it matter who the quarterback is to you? Yeah, ask yourself that. Yeah, kinda. Don't you feel better if the quarterback has more experience? Theoretically. It's not how it went back in 2010. You went with Taylor. Turned out okay. Not always, but for the most part. And I'm interested to know with Nebraska if there's some key questions. We ask about players that are going to be make or break this year. And we talked about Turner Corcoran and Teddy Prohaska on the left side. And, man, you can make such an argument about Teddy being the key for this offensive line, Elijah. But let's punt the brakes for a second. How about Bryce Benhart? How about if you get a new and different and better Bryce Benhart at right tackle, your old bro from Southeast with Brock Bando at guard, you get a grizzled vet, 6 years. Think of Tommy Boy. You get a 6-year guy in Hickson who started back pre-COVID. And then you get your 2 studs, your 2 highest recruits in forever on the left side. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback or running the football. Nebraska could be good if they get competent to good offensive line play. So as much as we want to talk Teddy off of injury, absolutely it's important. Can you get a guy who's played a lot of football for you, playing football at a high level for you, in Benhart to kind of cement that right side?
Well, and that's what's really interesting about this offensive line, and there's so many downers out there, and I've been in that camp at times during this offseason. I'm not going to say I'm fully in the optimistic boat either, but you look at the offensive line, and if you want reason to believe that Donovan Raiola is going to be able to turn this offensive line around and turn it into something this season, it's the fact that it's not like he's working with a whole bunch of young, inexperienced guys along this offensive line. Benhart has pretty much 2 full seasons of experience under his belt. Corcoran has about a season and a half of experience underneath his belt. Bando has been playing in, 28 games during his career. I think 0 starts, but I think he's near the top 10 in terms of guys in this roster games played, and Bando's up there. Trent Hickson, a 6th-year senior.
Is he working on the most games appeared on in Husker history list?
Without starting?
I'm just saying the guy's played in more games than a lot of Nebraska people have.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's been here 6 years. I mean, you factor the COVID in, but it's still true.
I mean, it's almost weird to think about the fact that the most unproven offensive lineman, I shouldn't say unproven, inexperienced offensive lineman is Prohaska, who a lot of guys are penciling in to be the best offensive lineman on this team this year. And he's the guy that's got the least Big Ten experience under his belt when you look at the projected starters among the rest of the offensive line. So that's reason for optimism. The fact that Raiola is not working with guys that haven't been there. They haven't seen what they're going up against. They know what they're going up against. It's more about fine-tuning and tweaking and getting this offensive line into a cohesive unit that plays the way he wants to play, and not about trying to get them just ready to go through the rigors of a Big Ten season. They know what that looks like.
Right tackle is huge, and defensive tackle opposite Ty Robinson. Who do you pencil in there? That's what I'm curious about. We can talk 7.5 wins. We can talk bowl eligibility. We can talk Ireland. We can get into a lot of different things. But from a specific standpoint, who's playing opposite corner of Newsom? Who's playing opposite Ty Robinson on the interior? Who's a 3rd or 4th linebacker to spell Reimers and Henrich? Who's going to line up with Farmer, and can Farmer be the man? And then, is right tackle going to be a question mark or something you feel okay about? And are you going to have to give the right side all sorts of help? Tight end, running back. Because it was a turnstile for both of Nebraska's tackles last year. Too many times you drop back, you're hurried, you're hit, you're sacked. And then bang, there's a turnover. So all some interesting questions. Win, Feast, Polar Bear, Devin Drew, just to name a few, as the candidates are aplenty. So depth and options, yes, for Nebraska football, but are they solidified? No. And it all goes into that bigger picture, to the point earlier about Vegas, the desert, and 7.5 wins. Are you a guy that can just look at it, Elijah, and say, all right, we're counting. Yes, 8-4, or can't do it, 6-6, or 7-5, just based on, or are you absolutely, it's not that you're afraid, but you're like, there's so many unknowns going on. Man, that's a bad take to do August 2nd.
Well, I used to
throw out a win total.
I used to be really good at predicting these win totals back during the Bo Pelini years. You had 2 options: 9-3 or 8-2.
9-4, 10-4.
Well, yeah, if you're looking at including postseason play, yeah, you're looking at. I mean, it's going to be 4 losses. That's for sure.
I know it's been 5 years, but you don't have to just wipe out the possibility of postseason play. Okay.
I forgot what it feels like to be playing in December. I'll tell you that much.
No, absolutely.
But like this year's team, I look at it and I go, there is enough talent for them to get over that 7.5 win mark. Pure talent alone. I mean, that's why you had that quote from the anonymous coach a month ago saying, this is the all-bus team. Because they get off the bus, they look great. Based on the recruiting profiles, there's a lot of talent in here. I mean, the who's who of the college football world has wanted some of the guys on this Nebraska roster, and you're going to be taking them to a team in Indiana, which is just trying to get like a 4-star recruit every single season. Like, you're going to have the talent advantage on 7 to 8 games you play this season, if not more. And the question is, can you pull it all together and can you make that talent count and get it to 8 wins? So, I mean, 7.5 wins, if I'm a betting man, I'm just staying the hell away. That's what I'm doing. Has anything you've seen in the Nebraska in the past 3 seasons told you should bet that one way or the other? Because I think Nebraska, in terms of the grander college football world, is the king of you have no idea what's coming this season.
Do they actually reach their potential? Do they actually reach their potential? They do that. They're 7-5, and they're bowling, or they're 8-4. But from a spread standpoint, they're favored against Northwestern, 12.5. They're going to be favored against North Dakota. They're going to be favored against Georgia Southern, probably dogged by a field goal or more to Oklahoma.
That one score range, yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be within 7 to 9 with Indiana. I mean, you're not going to be a double-digit home favorite.
The only team preseason that's probably going to be a double-digit favorite on Nebraska is Michigan. It's the only team I look at on the entire schedule where I go, yeah, that's probably going to be a double-digit favorite for Michigan because you're playing at the Big House, and Michigan's a top 10 team this season.
You're going to be dogged probably at home against Minnesota. You're going to be dogged at home against Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. You're going to be dogged on the road against Iowa. And your number probably is going to be, I'll say 10.5 to Michigan, 10 to 13.5. Mm-hmm. I'll say Iowa's probably favored by 6.5.
Okay.
3.5 to 6.5. I think Wisconsin's probably a 4.5 point favorite. Minnesota probably a 3.5 point favorite. These are my odds, and I take the points right now. Again, August 2nd, day 6 of camp. until you absolutely see what shakes out.
I mean, of those 4 games you listed
for game 1,
yeah. I mean, of those 4 games you just listed, though, I see 2 of those 4 in which you think Nebraska's going to be underdog as probably being pick'em games in my eyes. Or at least maybe once we get there is Minnesota. Sure, that they're a solid football team, and PJ Fleck always has them ready, but
they outcoach you.
The talent they have on their roster, though, is nothing spectacular.
No, but they just outcoach you, and they outcoach you. They outwill you.
It's the same story with Iowa too, where Nebraska theoretically on paper should out-talent this Iowa football team. Iowa's going to have a great defense this year, but their offense is shaping up to be terrible, to put it bluntly. And not terrible that they're going to lose games. And I know Iowa's won all these games the past couple of years, so it's hard for me to sit here in Lincoln, Nebraska and go, well, man, that offense is going to be horrible. They're still Division I athletes, but they're not a good offense. That's not what the focus of the Iowa football team is. And putting up 14 to 20 points a game in today's college football world, it doesn't going to cut it.
That's asking a lot of your defense. Iowa's offense this year, unless the quarterback gets some confidence and they let him turn it loose, because he has weapons, he has talent, but it could remind you a lot of the 2009 Nebraska offense, where they're good for 1 score to 2 scores a game, and 10's all you get. Your defense better be right around that 9 to 10 scoring defense number. Otherwise, you're in big trouble.
And on paper, their defense looks like it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, it should. Secondary, a lot of people to choose from to bring it back to Nebraska. Before we talk with Mitch Sherman, Omar Brown, he is a talented ball player in the secondary. You have Buford. Both those guys are safety options next to Farmer. Farmer's got to keep doing his thing. Singleton, I know, is super talented. And then you have Braxton Clark, Gifford, and Wright. I love that combo potential for Nebraska at the nickel spot. And then you have Tommy Hill. I mean, what's he do oppo corner to solidify? I think the talent and the respect of said talent is there by Coach Fisher. He's called him a freak multiple times. But is the trust there? Is the mental side there to to be locked in all the time and not be distracted.
I mean, the reports out of camp on Tommy Hiller, the fact that he just needs to pick up the defense. Athletically, he's all there. He's got that ready to go. He's got to pick up the defense and what he needs to do. Further back, are you prepared to pencil in Marquise Buford as a starter? The reports out of fall camp and even spring and summer ball on Marquise Buford have been phenomenal, to say the least. And it almost sounds like he's a guy where someone's gonna have to come rip that starting job away from him. It's in pencil, not pen, but pencil for me.
No, I think the thing that's amazing about Buford is you want to put him in the slot against somebody. Let's go, because that is your ultimate X factor and mismatch. Typically, who you trying to D up and who you got to use in the slot a lot of times. But great to be with you on a Tuesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We are gearing up for Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. We'll take your emails. Can send those to us. Chris@HailVarsity.com. Your money or your buddy's money. Are you putting it on the middle of the table? And that 7.5 win total out of Vegas. You going up or you going down or you going right on? Or you like Elijah? I'm running and hiding from that temptation. The hook is very real, but plenty to chew on. And Mitch Sherman will join us. Hail Varsity, we're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
When you think of Union Omaha, what comes to mind? The high level of play, the inviting atmosphere, the amazing promotions, huh? I spoke to a former player, and when I asked for one thing that made playing for Union Omaha so special, he responded with the people, his teammates, the staff, and the fans. The super passionate, crazy, awesome fans, that is. Why am I bringing this up? Because I want to remind you that the people are just as important to the team as the team is to them. There are plenty of matches down the stretch, and we want to see you in the seats. Get your tickets now, before it's too late.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in with The Athletic. Mitch Sherman joins us at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, thanks for the time. How are you?
I am good on this Tuesday. How are you, Chris?
Good, man. You didn't have to mow today, did you?
No, my lawn stopped growing for some reason. It might have to do with the 115-degree weather, but no. So I'm trying to walk that fine balance between it not dying, but also not growing, because if it's growing, that probably means I'm watering it way too much. So we're doing all right. I'm not planning to mow today, probably tomorrow. Maybe we get closer to the weekend and we'll see.
So you're riding that fine line of like, yeah, I want the neighbors to look at my lawn and still think it looks good, but I don't want to put in so much work that I'm out in the heat all the time trying to make it look good. It's that fine line?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of hope, honestly, right now, Elijah. At this point, like, you can try to put in the work, and it's probably not going to pay off unless we get a big rainstorm, and even then, with this heat during the day, I mean, it's a thankless. If you're out there tending to it, I think it's pretty much a thankless job at this point.
Mitch Sherman, just to be clear, we are talking about his yard.
For sure. Yeah. What else? What else could it
be? Yeah. Yard work and yard appearance, curb appeal. Mitch, you were on hand for the open part of practice and there for post game, keeping with the curb appeal theme. What did you like in the 30-minute window you got to watch?
Lots of big, fast guys moving around, which is basically the way it is every year when we get that sneak peek at the team in August. It's been a year since we've been inside for one of those things, so it was good just to get in and see, the new coaches at work, which is not something that we had the opportunity to do in the spring. And then, of course, all of those new pieces, the new players, the transfers, all of the freshmen who were out there. And, with very few exceptions, which is a big positive for Nebraska right now in the early stages of camp, with very few exceptions, everybody was practicing. They were where they were supposed to be. They looked like what you thought they were supposed to look like when the news came that, hey, player X, player Y is joining the program. Sometimes certainly in recruiting, but also now in this transfer portal age, you don't always know what you're going to get as a football program until those guys show up, and not just show up, but show up and start working out. And I thought from my walking around for those 30 minutes that the guys who were supposed to look good and be in the places that you expected them to contribute, that was all happening on Monday morning.
Mitch, what do you make of what you saw from the quarterbacks? Not asking for an overreaction, but just asking for, a quick knee jerk. I mean, does Nebraska's quarterback room and options look pretty good for this season?
Okay, well, knee jerk would be that the two guys who came in the off season, the two transfers are running the show, and that I guess, and also a knee jerk, and this is like probably overreactive, would be that if you're Logan Smothers and you ended the season last year against Iowa as the starter and the number one guy, I think you're wondering about your future, and there's been, and I know we've talked about that we talked about it through December and into the early portions of this year. What was going to become of Logan Smothers? Is he going to stick this thing out? And to his credit, he made comments in the spring about being loyal. And I walked out, one of my thoughts on Monday after I watched the quarterback was like, okay, at what point, does it become fighting against the current? It seems to be going against him right now, and not really because of anything that he's done, but I think with the changes that have been made, and I'm talking about on the coaching staff and the style of offense that Nebraska is going to run, it is Chubba Purdy and Casey Thompson, and not necessarily in that order, but those are the two guys that are going to get the looks and get the reps with the top players on this offense as preseason camp goes along and we get closer to Nebraska's departure for Ireland. So where does that leave not just Logan, but Heinrich Harburg? Where does it leave Richard Torres and Matt Masker and all the guys who are at that position right now competing for time?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that struck me, Mitch, was just like, holy cow, is that 9 quarterbacks going through the drills? And I guess I don't know how they're going to be structuring their practices here moving forward, but I mean, are you worried about the fact that just with 9 quarterbacks, that's a lot of attention to go around from a Mark Whipple trying to run the show, trying to coach up their quarterbacks into running his offense?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I think it's 6 on the 110. But there have 110 guys who are allowed to be in preseason camp, and there are a couple of walk-ons at the back end of Nebraska's roster. I know you have the kid from Kansas City, Mikey Pauley. I don't believe that he's part of the 110. And if he is, he wasn't out with the 6 guys who were doing work on Monday morning. So I counted 6 green jerseys. So that would be Thompson, Purdy, Smothers, Harburg, Torres, and Masker there with Mark Whipple. And then, the other notable part about those quarterbacks and what they were doing is that Scott Frost was not with them. Frost was over on the sidelines at times. He was with the tight ends. I saw him taking a look at some special team stuff, even went over to the defense. And that was just right there at the beginning. I think he still spends the majority of his time kind of around the offense, but he's not there on top of the quarterbacks and working with them directly like we saw even when Nebraska had Mario Verduzco and Matt Lubeck as the offensive brain trust alongside Frost for the last couple of years.
Mitch Sherman's with us. Few minutes, Hail Varsity Radio at Mitch Sherman on Twitter with The Athletic. So let's walk down this quarterback road. And we know about Casey's experience. We know the numbers he put up at Texas. What do you think keeps him from securing the job if you were to speculate? What opens that door, and how does a guy like Chubba charge through it? How does he flip the assumption?
Well, I think only if he got hurt. I don't really think there's a lot that can happen with Chubba or Logan or somebody else showing a ton in practice. I think Mark Whipple is really hyper-focused in on what Casey Thompson can give Nebraska because of his experience. And we heard that at the outset of spring, back at the end of February, where, Whipple let it slip that, Casey was the number one guy, and really it wasn't even it wasn't that difficult of a decision because he had experience in starting, multiple games that other guys in the program just don't have. Purdy has started one game as a Power 5 quarterback against NC State when he was at Florida State a couple years ago, and Smothers has started one game against Iowa last year when he played well for 3 quarters in that Hawkeyes comeback victory. But Casey has a big edge. And then as the spring went on, you heard not necessarily that talk. It wasn't walked back by Whipple, but I think he slowed his burn a little bit. Well, he came out hot again on Monday, and his first chance to talk to the media, really singing the praises of Casey Thompson and how he is ahead of the others. So I don't really think there's much of anything that can happen on the field as far as one of those guys in the backup positions now who step up and show something that makes Mark Whipple need to start that guy in the season opener. He's going to start Casey Thompson if Casey Thompson is healthy. So that's about it. If he has, an issue with the thumb, if something else crops up where he's not able to do the things physically that are asked of the Nebraska quarterback, then yeah, absolutely, they're going to go look at Chuba and look at Logan. But otherwise, it's his job, and I think it's going to stay that way.
Mitch Sherman's with us here from The Athletic. And Mitch, one of the things with this quarterback battle that's kind of intriguing to me is the leadership aspect, because I don't look at the offense and see a guy who's a de facto leader like Nebraska's had the past couple seasons with Adrian Martinez, or even defensively they had that leader in Garrett Nelson or even Ty Robinson. And I'm not sure I see, at least from an outside perspective, a leader really bubbling to the surface here early in fall camp from that offense as a whole. And assuming Casey is the starter, is that something that is going to be on his plate over the next couple weeks, trying to build up that rapport? Are there any other guys that have been with the program that you think are going to step up and fill that leadership role?
Yeah, Casey's been working on that from the beginning. It's I think it's something that comes natural with his personality and that's good for Nebraska. That's fortunate for Nebraska, not only that it found somebody who they felt fit their system physically and athletically, but also that he brings the kind of personality where he can be a leader. But, certainly he doesn't step in to the role that Adrian Martinez vacated last season. They're different personalities, and I don't know that Casey Thompson, even when he's, even if he had been with Nebraska for a number of years, would give you all of the same leadership qualities that Martinez had. They're different, and they're going to lead in different ways. I think in a lot of ways, Martinez is just exemplary as a leader. That's one thing. You're just not going to find someone who, as far as just the straight leadership qualities, is much better than what Adrian has given Nebraska for 4 years. So Casey can be a great leader, but I don't think he's going to fill those shoes. And he will continue to improve in that area. He will, I think, continue to look for ways to lead and to branch out away from the practice field as Nebraska gets closer to the opener, find ways to connect and gel with the guys on the offensive side and team-wide. And then they're going to have to look other places. I think Travis Vokolek, as a sixth-year senior, is somebody who brings a lot of leadership. I think Brock Bando, another older guy on the offense, stepping into potentially a role as the starting right guard, can bring leadership. Same thing with Trent Hickson at the center spot. Turner Corcoran, despite being in the program for just 2 years before this season, is a vocal, natural kind of leader. I'd also look at somebody like Ramir Johnson, who's been around and is more of a quiet guy, but watching him and the way that he worked at the front of the line with the running backs on Monday, I got a sense that he's really respected, and he can lead in ways that are different from what you might see from Turner Corcoran or Garrett Nelson or somebody like that.
Mitch Sherman with The Athletic at Mitch Sherman. Mitch, we'll run into you soon, bud. Thanks for spending some time with us today on Hail Varsity.
All right, good to talk to you guys. Thanks.
All right, there he is, Mitch Sherman. Follow him on Twitter at Mitch Sherman. We'll take a tour around the sports world, some MLB thoughts, some NFL. Rick Kaczenski, Kaz, going to be with us In about 20 minutes, Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Mitch Sherman. Numbers to get in, open phones here for 20 minutes or so if you want to join us. Introduce yourself, chime in. Welcome to do it. 466-3776-800-825-5865. 466-3776-800-825-5865. You're talking 7.5. That's the number in Vegas. It's been around for a while. Has that grown on you, or have you run from it as we get through camp? Good stuff from Bill Conley, ESPN. And again, Nebraska, because they're so wild. Last year was so wild. It's been a long time since Nebraska's done on paper what some of the experts thought they should do on paper. And 2021, some teams that are likely to sustain gains, right? And last year can set you up for a follow-through season the current year. Or you could have peaked, hit the ceiling, and then it's back to rebuild mode in college football. Think about these teams following COVID, and a whopping 20 teams took huge steps in 2021. UTEP, almost 20 points a game. Utah State, almost 16.5 points a game. Syracuse, 13. Tennessee, 13. Almost 2 touchdowns a game from 20, the COVID year, to 2021 for NC State. That's Tim Beck and Mr. Garrison. Wake Forest, 12 a contest. Florida State was 10 points better. Sparty was 10 points better. Pittsburgh, we rave about 41 a game from the Whipple. They're still scoring 30. So, I ask, if things hit, we were talking with Mitch about quarterback and O-line play. If things hit, Nebraska a year from now is on this list, Elijah. A year from now, Nebraska's on this list where, sweet Lord, they're going from scoring 27 a game to, what's 10 more points do for you? Well, you're 9-3. You're 10-2.
Think about with last year's offense how much easier it would have been just to get 10 points a game if you have a kicker and a competent red zone offense. You're turning a field goal into a touchdown, so you're adding 4 points there.
And you're making one of the field goals.
Well, yes, you're adding 4 points if you can turn a field goal into a touchdown.
Yeah.
If you can just knock home a field goal, you're now up 7 points, and then add another touchdown or a field goal, and you're up to 10. I mean, 7 points is pretty reasonable to ask to add to last year's total. And obviously things have changed offensively, but just with last year's team, plus 7 points to get them to 35 points a game would have been easy if you just had a competent kicker and some more confidence or some better play calling in the red zone.
Well, the trend is this. 8 or 9 of these teams could improve further. 4 will take another huge leap. And there are some teams that are likely to do so. What it really equates to, and I can put this in Husker perspective historically for you, it's that jump from, we'll call 1992, where you go 9-3, you play Florida State better, you somehow lost to Iowa State, still don't know how. Merv Seiler in The Exorcist. You go from that 92 season where you lit up really good teams, And then 93 happened, and, well, look at this Cinderella Nebraska. Well, they were right there, right? 10-2 good, finished 9-3. They go undefeated and then lose to Florida State, and then you have your championship. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of these teams that Conley's highlighted with their point production, about 4 of them, about a fifth of them, will take a jump to greater. And we're talking New Year's Day. NC State, good bowl record, good record, I should say, but not a threat to win an ACC championship. You know why? They got to beat Clemson. Okay, you got to beat a mad Clemson. You got to do it consecutively. So the projection for NC State's 9-3. Tennessee jumped from 3-7 to 7-6 to 9-3 is the projection this year for Tennessee. Fresno State, the fighting
Bulldog?
Kalen DeBoers, who used to coach at Augustana.
Okay.
Great football program out of Sioux Falls. Kalen was head coach for 100 years when they'd come down and drop 50 on Nebraska Westland. Some of us did TV games for when Kalen DeBoer was roaming the sidelines over there on North 48th or North 56th Street in Lincoln. But they say Fresno's going to go 10-2. Florida State, they expect to jump to 8-4. Bowling Green, don't care. Syracuse, 6-6, don't care. K-State, they say, takes a step back, 7-5 instead of 8-5. And stumble teams or rebound. And see, we're trying to categorize Nebraska for 2022. Were they a stumble team last year? They weren't a rebound team. But you go from 5-7 to 3-9. That's a fall. That's more than a stumble. That's me walking out of the bar at 2 a.m. Saying timber. So I don't know. We can label Nebraska whatever.
But what's interesting about...
Let's pray Nebraska is not a sustain program. Let's pray they don't sustain 3-9.
I mean, what's interesting, though, about the modern college football is... I remember from my childhood, and I'm sure you probably remember better than me, is if you had a bad season, you had some good players coming through the pipeline, you did have that rebuild season where things started getting a little bit better. You started seeing some signs for the future, and you went, okay, they got a team full of a lot of sophomores, some redshirt sophomores, some juniors. Like, they're going to have more years in the program, and you could forecast a better season the year after. And that's just not how college football works anymore, where if you're bad and you had a great sophomore who was, rushed for 1,400 yards, let's say, he's gone. He's off to the transfer portal. He's going to find somewhere he's going to win, and you got to come in and rebuild with transfer portal guys. And Michigan State kind of proved it last season that you don't need to build up to success. You can find success immediately, and just where college football is nowadays.
Michigan State was strategic, and they were ahead of the curve with it, and they profiled exceptionally well. Can you profile the portal as well as you've been able to develop and profile the high school ranks for recruiting? The interesting word you said when it comes to rebuild. No Nebraska coach ever gets to rebuild. Scott Frost is the first coach to get the full reset rebuild following the Riley era. Okay? If you don't come in and win, you're out. And even if you win 9 or 10 ball games, you've been out. Frost is the first guy to get time, and now he's going into year 5. And that rubbed some wrong. Some are saying, be patient, be patient. That's kind of the theme, and it all comes to a head. What do you produce in year 5? But he's had the opportunity. He's had that longer runway. But you're getting towards the end of this runway, but it's a new flight crew, which is not always the case. We'll wind down hour 1. Rick Kaczenski is about 15 minutes away. A Better Call Saul recap. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Well, a dear friend of ours, Johnny Clare, is celebrating. He's a big old Padres fan. Play your Ron Burgundy clip now. If you're a Washington Nationals fan, don't really play it. But Padres getting Juan Soto and Josh Bell. The Nationals getting Mackenzie Gore, Robert Hassel, C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Jarlin Sosna, and Luke Voigt. In the Haas is going to Boston, which is cool. Haas was great in Kansas City. He got paid to go to San Diego, and now he's going to Beantown.
And not only, it reminds me of that Moneyball scene where here's what the Padres think of you. They're shipping him off to Boston, and they're paying most of his salary to do it.
David, do we understand each other? Yeah, we're cool. David Justice is in the cage, his hat's backward, and David Justice is swinging away because he's special. I loved David Justice growing up, man. With the Braves, man, he was fun. And then you learn a little more about David Justice. You're like, yeah, David was probably not nice to certain people in his life, putting it mildly. Then you see him in Moneyball in 2002. Brad Pitt going, yeah, I'm going to squeeze the last little bit of baseball out of you. The Yankees hate you. They hate you so much, they're paying half. We're Oakland. We don't pay anybody. We charge you for soda and milk. Hey, why is it $1 for Pepsi? Welcome to Oakland. And you know this. You know whoever's in the Oakland front office, you know whoever's scouting for Oakland is going to find some next wave of phenoms. Because people back in the day would always get their studs from the Royals or they'd get them from Oakland. And there was a tiny, teeny little window where they had McGuire and Canseco and Ricky Henderson. And then you fast forward and you got the Giambi era. And what happens? All the big market teams take from Oakland, period.
They had a good team about 3 years ago. Same thing happened.
They had a great team 3 years ago. So those scouts just must love where they work and who they work for. Because if you're an Oakland A's fan, man, your heart's broke because let's hurry up and wait for someone to become an MVP so they can sign somewhere else next year.
I'll just say before we get out of here this segment, I think I'm ready to anoint Moneyball as my favorite baseball movie ever.
Ever?
I know you make a strong argument for Major League.
Yeah.
I like The Rookie. That's a good one too. But like in terms of just the one with like the kid who comes up.
Oh yeah, from Chicago.
Yeah, right? Where he breaks his arm.
Got a big butt.
He breaks his arm, then he can throw 100 after that. That's just a cute one. But I think Moneyball's my top. I love Moneyball.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just me.
As much as I like Costner in Yellowstone, I've tried to erase For the Love of the Game from my memory. It's false advertising with the late, great Kelly Preston based on what she did in Jerry Maguire and what wasn't done in For the Love of the Game. Quick reminder to get buckled up. 1 of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an alcohol-impaired driver. Why take chances? If you drink, don't drive. And that message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Rick Kaczenski, Coach Kaz, on the way. Hail Varsity Hour 2 presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity. And I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Kaz, Rick Kaczenski, longtime assistant with Nebraska and Iowa. Of course, great ball player at Notre Dame. Kaz, what are you doing? How are you?
Hey, brother. How you, man? I'm just driving back from Myrtle Beach, heading back to Columbia, man.
Well, we're just getting ready for, the countdown, Kaz, is what's on. 24 days for Ireland. 22 days for me till Ireland. And I've got a couple of transplant Nebraska fans that they came to a Nebraska game when you guys were here, absolutely loved it, and they are thrilled as all get out that Nebraska is coming to their home country.
Yeah, that'll be great. But you just gotta, when you get there, you gotta start a little bit earlier. Those pubs don't stay up and quite as late as they do in the States. So if you're gonna get greased up there, Schmidt, you gotta start a little earlier than you normally do.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Kaz. How early do you think I get started?
Yeah, good point. Do you ever end?
That's right.
Yeah.
Do I stop?
Yeah.
Right. That's so loving there. Rick Kaczenski's with us. Yeah, Coach, I want to get your take here, and there's been a problem with Nebraska, and they'd be the first to tell you about it when it comes to red zone. And I wanted your insight to it. You worked on red zones everywhere you've been, be it Notre Dame, South Carolina, Iowa, and of course Nebraska. And what makes a good red zone offense, in your opinion, aside from the obvious getting points? What are some of the intricacies you think are necessary for a good red zone? What's going to make you pretty proficient in that area?
Well, you got to stay committed to running the football, because you get down there and your field shrinks, and people play specific defenses inside the red zone. Inside the 20, inside the 15. Iowa, what they call their hokey defense. People haven't figured it out. Phil Parker could, probably clinic half the Division I Power 5 teams on it, and he ain't going to give them everything. So you gotta look at what you got, what they're giving you, and you can't be afraid to run the football. People think that, I hear this, they're load the box because so we got to throw the ball. That's not necessarily the case. To me, when people load the box, especially in the red zone, stay committed to the run, because it's a single failure defense down there a lot of times. Somebody's got to make a play. To be honest with you, Schmidt, each place is a little bit different. Each offense is a little bit different. It sounds like coach speak, but people say, take what they give you. I don't think that's the case. I think when you get down there, you're down there. You already have the defense on their heels. You dictate the tempo. You dictate what you want to run. You dictate the formations you want to. And I think what happens a lot of time is people get down there. They're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to get a lost yardage play and get kicked out of field goal range. You start, coaches are great at talking themselves into seeing ghosts. So I think the teams that have the most success in the red zone, they just do what they do, and they have confidence in doing that, and understand, hey, you dictate to the defense, not the other way around. You're down there. They're on their heels. And once you get inside a certain yard line, man, it's really a guessing game on defense. All the places I coach defense, once you get inside a certain area, man, you're really rolling the dice. Guys got to make plays, but it becomes a chess match, guessing game.
Rick Kaczenski is with us, Hail Varsity Radio, a Tuesday with Kaz. Kaz, that's well put. If you were running an offense, would you have a mobile quarterback package ready, or would you want a mobile quarterback? I ask that because I think of the years Nebraska had Tommy and Taylor inside the red zone, but you also had Rex and Amir and Roy. So, I mean, that was a money 1-2 punch on top of a really good offensive line. I don't know if Nebraska is completely going away from the mobile quarterback element. I'm just guessing that it's not going to be as prevalent based on what Whipple's done at Pitt and some of the body types or styles, of quarterback Nebraska's got on the roster. But would you want a mobile quarterback in the red zone?
Once again, I think it's not necessarily what type of quarterback you have. It's what you do with the guy who's under center or in the gun. Mm-hmm. It's still going to take all 11 guys, so it takes even more focus. That stuff's easy said to done. Like I said, more coach speak. But there's got to be a mentality that you're scoring touchdowns. That field goals aren't okay. But just like really once you get down there, a mobile quarterback, it's no different than having a mobile quarterback in the field. If you put a guy in or you have a mobile quarterback, people, D coordinators, they're preparing for that. So they have ways to defend mobile quarterbacks. They have ways to they have ways to take things away from people. So I really don't think it matters a whole lot about what type of guy you have. It's what you're doing with the guys and what you're doing personnel. And like I said, it goes back to the mentality of, you dictating, you better dictate to the defense. They got the problem. They're down there. Their back's against the wall. So, what got you down there? Do what you do. So, I think where you do see some mistakes a lot of times is where coaches get down there and they do get away from their offense. They'll get into some options. They'll get into some things. They'll get into the gun if they're a downhill running team. And that's not what they do. They feel like they got to change because now all of a sudden they're down there. Just do what you do and, keep running what got you down there and understand the defense got the problem. I've been on both sides, man, and defensively, it's a crapshoot a lot of times, man. You're just calling, and hopefully you called something right, and they miss a block, and there's a guy in the hole.
What team was the toughest to defend in the red zone, or what team did you kind of have begrudging? I don't want to say acknowledgement, but what I guess respect. What team did you respect with your time in the Big Ten that did their work in the red zone, either at Iowa or Nebraska?
Yeah, I think Northwestern they do a really good job. They used a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, and what they would do is they would get you to move and adjust, and then know exactly where you are, and then go after some weak spots. They did a really good job with their play action down there, and slant, flat, where they're picking guys without picking. It's kind of like they're making the defenders go off, go over top, and they did a really good job of creating space in small quarters in the passing game. So they gave you problems. Obviously, Wisconsin gives you problems just because you know what they're going to do, but they just kind of line up and mash you, and that's their offense. That's what they love. They get under center, they hand off, and as since the beginning of time, or since Coach Alvarez was there, they always had a big, great running back that runs with high knees and gets downhill and moves the pile forward. So, those are two teams that I thought really did a good job during my time in the Big Ten.
Rick Kaczenski's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Kaz, the number for Nebraska in Vegas, over under at 7.5. Did you guys ever pay attention to Vegas, what the win projections were for the regular season? B, what do you think of 7.5?
No, we never paid attention to. We never paid attention to that. Just because you're around these guys so much. I mean, you're around them pretty much 365 days a year. It seems like you're in meetings with them, you're in practice with them. There's guys that surprise you. There's guys that develop over the summer and during fall camp. You always have a couple surprises. So really the people who know the most about the team, they're not the ones making any predictions. You're just trying to get your guys ready for that opener. So, I think during the season, you would look at the lines if they moved. Then you try to do some research like, oh, man, we're going on the road. How'd the line move? How'd the line go from, 5.5 to 7? Did they get somebody hurt or something like that? So those are the only times you looked at that stuff. You don't pay a whole lot of attention. You're so focused on your group and your team that you don't get caught up in a whole lot of that. But I think the one thing that amazed us coaches is a lot of times is Vegas is right. It's easy, and a lot of the things are obvious. But there's some things that they're right on that would surprise us at times.
The over under, the point total, the spread is nuts. I mean, they hit it. They know it. They hit it.
Yeah.
And they kill it in the NFL. They kill it in college. I mean, they're building casinos for a reason, Kaz.
Yeah, there's no poor car dealers and there's no poor casino owners, that's for sure. And, I think, that's a safe number. You got 7.5. I think that's a safe number. I think you look at the early part of the season, and I think if you beat Northwestern, which is going to be a tougher game than people think. I know Northwestern is not getting a whole lot of credit. They lost some guys to the transfer portal. They weren't very good last year. Rarely is Pat down 2 years in a row. And they'll have some surprises too. So, but I think for all the Big Ten teams, the opener is going to be critical. And I know it's only one game, but for a team like Nebraska, go over Island, be 1-0 in the Big Ten. I think you'll be over that 7.5. I think if you can get that Northwestern win. So, that's just my take without. And I'm a guy, Schmitty. I mean, I'm a casual observer. I don't study rosters. I just kind of go off of what I've seen on TV, which is really hard to watch when you're a coach. It's hard to see details and what people have and all that. But I think that Northwestern game is going to be a little bit tougher, and I think you want a tough game because I think you're going to find out early. And I think Nebraska's a team that they have to find out about themselves early, especially with the new quarterback and a lot of these new transfer guys, coming to get that W, be 1-0 in the Big Ten. I think you'll get to your 8-9 wins easily.
Rick Kaczenski with us, Hail Varsity Radio, a Tuesday with Kaz. We'll spend a few more minutes with Kaz on the other side up against a hard break here, but a reminder, a couple of things that are happening. One, the Hail Varsity podcast. You can subscribe to us, give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. We'll take the feedback and do so. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play is where you find Hail Varsity Radio, and also HailVarsity.com. 2, how about the Hail Varsity Club? I know we were there yesterday in La Vista. I know we're there this Friday to kick off the week in Omaha. But put down August 23rd. I know you're counting down till I leave for Ireland. You and my wife are both like, isn't he getting out of here? But August 23rd, at the Hale Varsity Club a special screening of the Nebraska documentary Day by Day.
Oh.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get downtown to see it in Lincoln. I didn't get to the different part of Omaha it was in a few weeks back. Just couldn't. Too much baseball to get to.
Wasn't going to spend the gas money to drive out to North Platte when it was out there.
Beautiful country, could have.
Oh yeah, but the gas money was crazy.
No, so the point is if you haven't seen Day by Day, Part 1, the documentary, get logged on HaleVarsityClub.com. Reserve your seat, August 23rd. Make it happen. That's going to be great.
I actually might be there.
Yes, you will. Little roadie. That'll be fun. More with Coach Rick Kaczenski, Mike St. James, Better Call Saul on the way. Like what you hear, high-quality radio and podcast, just part of what we do at Hale Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hale Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hale Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HaleVarsity.com. Just go to HaleVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hale Varsity. That's HaleVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hale Varsity Radio.
Rick Kaczenski is with us, Hale Varsity Radio, a Tuesday with Kaz. Of course, Kaz with Nebraska and Iowa. We love sitting down with Kaz on Tuesdays. You nailed it, and you're going to find out a ton about yourself. But, Kaz, the kids are now into fall camp. They've spent spring with some new faces and some new names. When you took over that room in Lincoln, what were you able to provide the kids and Iowa as well during those tight ball games? Because that's something I'm fascinated by. I'm fascinated by Nebraska's response to close games in the Big Ten, because it's not gone the way Nebraska has wanted it to, but you have some new voices, and can that make a difference?
Yeah, well, I don't know about new voice. Obviously you can't simulate experience, right?
Right.
So you got some older guys that have been in those situations. And, we've all been in it. You would just keep playing. Once, as a player, as a coach, when you're in this long enough, man, you see just about everything. So you just keep plugging away. That's why they put time on the clock. There's always more time, So it's just talking to those guys. And believe it or not, when things aren't going for you, going well for you, that's when you almost play a little bit looser, man. It's like, hell, what the hell we got? Just go play. Mm-hmm. But I think as coaches, you don't panic. You don't change anything. You don't change your personnel unless it's, somebody at a skill position that you absolutely can't win with, right? If a quarterback throws 4 picks and a half, man, you gotta give a guy a different look. But don't go switching D-line out. Don't go switching offensive line. You keep those guys in there. You tell them to keep plugging, and you just keep talking about doing what they're doing. Just playing one snap at a time, and then next thing you know, man, you're just making those short goals. All right, let's get that ball back. Let's get a 3 and out. Let's make them punt. Hey, if you let them get a first, they don't get 2 first downs on this drive. And then you just kind of see that sideline come alive. But the most important thing is getting a win when you come back, because it's psychologically it works both ways. And I think that's what's happened in Nebraska. And what Coach Frost has talked about, they're in every game. They just need that one little break. But, you got to make your breaks. Both teams get lucky during the game. Both teams have the ball bounce for them and against them. It's how you handle that. And I think Nebraska's one win away, and one of those close games to really start believing and then understanding, okay, it's going to be tight in the Big Ten. This is what we can't do, and then this is what we do. We just keep doing what we do. No self-inflicted wounds, and I think you get that one win, and I think Nebraska's going to turn that corner. I mean, when you get into conference play, you're expecting every game. You're expecting every game to be tough. And no matter how much pressure that you put on your guys during the week, goes back to, you can't be nice to your guys. You got to freaking put them in tough situations. You got to be demanding. You can't accept mistakes. And if they make mistakes, you either eliminate that play, you eliminate that defense, or you eliminate that player, before you get to game day. But, I really think that those guys, when they have that experience and they're in those situations, that's when you come over that hump. And then when you come in that locker room and you get that victory in a close game, because you were expecting it to be a close game, it's no different. What you do in the fourth quarter is no different than you do in the first quarter. You got to execute, and you can't self-inflict wounds on yourself. So I think, like I said, Schmitty, man, I expect a tough game in Ireland. It's a road trip. It's a business trip. It's not a tourist trip. It's a conference game right off the bat. And I think Nebraska, they get that win, and I think that's going to catapult them for the season.
It's Rick Kaczenski with us, Hail Varsity Radio, a Tuesday with Kaz. So, Kaz, before we go, we got to go off the board and get away from football for a moment here. I need your Mount Rushmore of bands.
Oh, of bands?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that'll change for me, a lot. But
Seasonal?
Obviously Dead. Yeah, I like a lot of Dead. Obviously, Zeppelin. But like bring the early blues, Bring It On Home.
Mm-hmm.
That type. But oh gosh. Man, I'm a huge music guy. I love Traffic.
Okay.
I kind of got eclectic taste. I listen to probably a lot of things people don't listen to, but you talk. I like from Buddy Guy to Howlin' Wolf to Temptations to Black Sabbath. You kidding me? I mean. Yeah, Ozzy Sabbath, not Dio Sabbath. I don't even count that as Sabbath, but yeah, that's some great cuts. That'll change. Give me 5. I'd have to. If you asked me today for 5, my 5 by Friday would absolutely would change. So, but yeah, those staples, man.
All right. Any band you haven't seen that you want to see?
Well, there's some individual, I've never seen Steve Winwood, Black Crowes, man.
Good
baseball keeps screwing me up on this way. I had tickets, and then they canceled during COVID, and then had 2 baseball tournaments, had tickets at 2 different spots last year. Ended up having to sell them for baseball, but, I'm a big fan of the Crowes, man. Before Eddie Vedder got psychotic with politics, was big Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, that era, Meat Puppets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You name it, man. But I can listen to Meat Puppets and then have Howlin' Wolf on the next cut, and then Bare Naked Ladies, and then and then War Pigs. So you're going to get the whole gamut.
Yay or nay on the Pixies?
Dude, I don't even know what they sing, but I got a feeling I would be a Pixies fan.
You would or wouldn't?
Probably wouldn't.
They were a big influence on Nirvana, so I think you might be.
Okay, all right.
I'll send you some. I'll send you some.
Okay, all right, man. I'll check it out. I will check it out, brother.
Rick Kaczenski with us. Coach, we'll get caught up again. Thanks for the time, as always, brother.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Best of luck in Omaha, man. Great, like I said, man, great sports town. Lincoln, Omaha, great towns.
Former Husker assistant and Iowa assistant Rick Kaczenski. We love chatting ball with him. And a little music from time to time, maybe some baseball. What else does Kaz get into? He's a big muscle car guy, loves his Corvettes. Good takes there. But I think he'd like the Pixies. But I said Pixie, and, Kaz is that Steeltown dude. He's like, what? Huh? That's the name of the band. So he'll check him out.
That's just a good topic for conversation, though. Mount Rushmore of bands, like just asking that of somebody's a great way to figure out, like.
But he's totally different. Loves the Grateful Dead, but is into heavy metal, because next week we'll have his open ready.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's a big Stooges guy. So the thing that the Kaz nailed, though, is that moment it happens where you get a tight, close ball game and you get a win. If you're Nebraska, that proof of concept where you kind of fulfill getting the job done, and then maybe you don't wonder if you can get the job done. So Northwestern, good stuff from Mitch Sherman, great stuff from Kaz on just the danger that is Northwestern. Any other opponent, you kind of know what you're going to get. But Northwestern's unlike any other opponent just because of what they are. And what they are is a bunch of smart kids with a bunch of smart coaches that will themselves into being in your business all the time. They don't go away. They're not easy. And you overlook them, they beat you. Even if you respect them, they, depending on their team and their talent level, they can take you to the wire. News on Devin Drew. So he's been working online to get graduated. He got graduated and is now headed this way to Lincoln. ETA. Going to be August 4th. So Thursday for Drew. You pray that Drew's been working out, doing some sort of program while he's been doing online work.
And he's a guy that this fall camp was going to be huge for him. He doesn't have all that much experience as a defensive lineman. If you know anything about his background, he went to community college, I believe Iowa Western, as a linebacker. Mm-hmm. And then while there, about a month and a half into his first season there, they said, you know what, let's move you up to the defensive line. He played as an undersized defensive lineman for a year, and they finally got the weight on him. He had one great season, and he went off to Texas Tech and was still kind of trying to learn the ropes of the defensive line a little bit, and he got a lot better as last season went on, and you were expecting this fall camp was going to be huge for him to get more experience, more time along the defensive line, and it's been cut short just a little bit, so now we're going to figure out how quick can he learn.
You want a comp for Devin Drew? It's one of the guys that Kaz had a situation like this his first year at Nebraska. And you move a linebacker to a defensive lineman, it's Eric Martin. Mm-hmm. Caveman. If you remember Caveman, if you're a Nebraska fan. Well, they put some weight on Emart, and I think he was close to a double-digit sack guy in 2013. So there's your example. That's what Iowa Western and their coaching staff does an amazing job. That's what they chose to do with Devin Drew. Nebraska is going to get a guy that's at least play a little bit. What's going to be different is what he did at Tech. Tech was a 3-down lineup, a 3-4 defense, but it was a lot like the Diaco defense where they were well, let's not give up any big plays and just rush 3. He did a pretty good job in his role to get after the quarterback and force some hurries. So good news for Nebraska. You get that other option at defensive tackle in. You got Ty Robinson. You got to find depth for Ty Robinson, and then you got to find who you're starting and who you're rotating in. You feel good about the edge with Garrett and Tanner and, of course, O'Shawn. We'll switch gears and recap Better Call Saul. Spoiler alert on the way. Mike St. James. His thoughts on Better Call Saul with Hail Varsity.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor. I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Plays, where you can go subscribe. Tell us what you think. As we are efforting Mike St. James. He is a Better Call Saul connoisseur. He got turned on to it by our buddy Timo. Timo went to college with Saul, Bob Odenkirk. We welcome back Mike St. James. Sparty, how we doing?
Oh, doing fine, Chris. How about you?
I'm good, man. I am good. We are down to 2 episodes left in Better Call Saul. We are taking a football and training camp break because we always hit up you and chop it up to talk Better Call Saul. And this was titled appropriately Breaking Bad because the first time we got introduced to Saul in Breaking Bad, I think it was season 2, the episode was titled Better Call Saul.
Exactly. Yeah, and we've now had 3 episodes since that one that ended with Lalo and Howard under the meth lab.
Right.
And these ones have all been slower paced.
They have.
But a lot has happened.
Well, and the episode last week, you had the time warp forward, where you jump from Saul and Kim together to. I mean, we got to talk to Saul. I mean, if you're going to pay for it, you got to upgrade your the talent you're bringing in.
Wow.
I mean, don't you think? I mean, if you're going to
valid point,
if you're going to purchase female companionship, you need to avoid like you're shopping at the Crystal Palace.
Exactly. And what was it, a bowl of Nutri-Grain bars? Go ahead and take one on your way out?
Yes. It's not, hey, do you want to grab breakfast? Hey, can I get you something to eat? It's not screaming, get out. It's like he puts his little earbud in to the Bluetooth phone call to take calls, and what's he doing? He's ushering out his one-night stand with a Nutri-Grain bar.
Perfect. Yeah.
So,
hey, and we did not talk after the last episode, and I really want to know what your thoughts were when he was name-dropping Taylor Martinez and Bo Pelini.
We talked to Brandon Kenny yesterday. He was with us at the Hail Varsity Club.
Okay.
So Kenny he got 3 touchdowns against Okie State. He was referenced heavily in that episode. I thought it was hilarious because, and Elijah nailed this, you got a Husker fan that's a security guard at Oakview that's going nuts. That season started so great. They were top 5, top 10 good, right?
Yeah.
And then they ended up, limping to 10-4 or whatever it was after the A&M game. And after losing to Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game. So it was really cool, though, because that was a fun season. That was a really fun season yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know exactly what he was talking about. The Texas game, the Oklahoma State game, and then the fact that he needed to distract, and the topic was football, right?
Yeah. How great that you get to relive the 2010 Husker season while watching an episode of Better Call Saul.
I was just hoping he would have referenced the Michigan State comeback. Just for you,
wow.
Sparty.
Yeah.
Mike St. James with us. We're talking Better Call Saul. We're recapping the episode here on Hail Varsity Radio. What do you think of Kim just pretty much breaking his heart, and then him trying to call her down in Florida yesterday?
Yeah, she left for the glamour of a sprinkler company in Central Florida somewhere. What are you going to do? But I wish we could have heard what he said. Now, eventually, we've got 2 episodes left. Mm-hmm. We've got to find out what that call was about, right? I mean,
for sure.
You've probably talked to an ex on a payphone before. It never ends well. But man, he really went nuts.
Well, I'm interested too with you look at Saul's character in Omaha, Gene, the Cinnabon guy at Oakview, and he's always able to mastermind stuff. I think Carol Burnett's going to rat him out. I think he gets taken down by the police, or worse, by Carol Burnett. The worst thing in the world for her was to get on YouTube and figure out how to surf the web. Because I think she's going to be the one that takes him down, or something, or there's going to be some sort of flashback to her son running with that air quote wrong crowd in Albuquerque. So what was weird? It was they superimposed Saul in a coffin last night. Remember that? How they transitioned? How they transitioned from something to him laying in bed. I forget the scene exactly.
Yeah,
I'm really in the weeds here. Forgive me.
Yeah, wasn't that the grave that?
He was supposed to be for him. Yeah. Because you see Walt and Jesse last night. It finally kind of crosses over to when he becomes their lawyer, and he's trying to talk Gus into buying the blue meth. Yeah.
So what you're saying, you're worried that they're foreshadowing Saul's death, right?
Yep. I think that's got to happen. Don't you?
God, I don't know. And I agree with you on Carol Burnett, though. I do think she's going to be his downfall. And how crazy is that? Like, when this show started, did you think, well, maybe this could end with Carol Burnett ratting him out?
Well, I didn't. But he went from setting people up for the grand old con of identity theft with the old digital cameras. How he's making great bank selling people's savings and information, but then he breaks in. He uses his elbow to break into some guy's house in Regency Court. Okay? Yeah. That's he's never really gone that far ever.
And the guy was a cancer patient, and you were thinking, oh, is he going to back down from this?
No, he's got a heart. He's got to have a heart, right?
Yeah. But no, he's kind of going the way of Walt, really.
Yeah. Well, let's set up, man. Beers for the Better Call Saul finale. I'll drive up to Omaha. I'll meet you at the Hale Varsity Club, and we'll get this thing rolling. I'm trying to get a watch party going.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah? We can wear our tackiest...
Yeah, I'm definitely in for that.
We can wear our tackiest gear as a tribute to Saul. Elijah, do you have any loud suits?
I don't think... I got a friend that's got like a light baby blue one. I could see if you could borrow it, or I could borrow it.
Okay. We'll just reenact Dumb and Dumber. Do the old sword fight coming in. Sparty?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. What's been up with you, man? What do you think is happening next? About 20 seconds for the next episode.
I think I hope we find out what happened in that phone call, and I hope we get some resolution to Kim and Saul. But yeah, I agree with you. Carol Burnett is going to bring him down.
Yep, she will wander upon. She'll go from cat videos to America's Most Wanted. And there is Saul. I'm thinking anyway. Sparty, we'll talk soon, brother. Thanks for jumping on.
Have a great night, Schmitty.
All right. There he is, Mike St. James. We recap Better Call Saul. We'll wind down a Tuesday next. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hale Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hale Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HaleVarsity.com. Just go to HaleVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hale Varsity. That's HaleVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Tuesday. Reminder, we're on the road Friday, kicking off at Hail Varsity Club in La Vista. So Roadshow Friday for Hail Varsity Radio for our Omaha audience. Excited to be back up there. Day by day, we'll have a screening at Hail Varsity Club on the 23rd of August. The podcast, if you're just catching us and wondering who we are, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Podcast, Hail Varsity Radio. Can find us Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Rick Kaczenski all over the red zone and the Northwestern matchup earlier. Mitch Sherman talked camp with us. We dove into that 7.5 win total that got me thinking again, just because of some friends out in Las Vegas. They're asking, hey, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do for this 2022 season? And Elijah said it best, unless it's your money, run. We will no doubt be entertained tomorrow. The Pirate will join us. Mike Leach gets us going as Coach Leach. He's still about a week away from camp, so we'll get his perspective on some football, some Better Call Saul, whatever the hell else the Pirate wants to talk about. Always awesome. Mike Babcock will join us. Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. And then we're loaded up. We'll check in with Coach Barnett, Gary Barnett, and then Grant Wistrom.
You know, while we're at it,
on Thursday.
While we've got Leach, it'd probably be a good idea to get his take on opening statements at media days. That would be a good thing. Because, I mean, Scott Frost beat him by one word this year in terms of opening statements.
We'll dive into media days. I mean, Leach has told us that he'd rather do time in prison than at the time in his life pay back his student loan debt. But he did, because Pirate did, I think he did, his law school wasn't America Samoa University. We'll ask him if he thought about it, but no, he went to Pepperdine. And that wasn't cheap. It's probably gorgeous. But no, we'll get his take on everything. He's a huge Better Call Saul guy. But more so, media days. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the food? What do you think of the questions? Is it filibuster time? Because he was all Netflixed and happy wanting suggestions for the SEC media days. And then Joey did an impersonation of him, Saban, and Brian Kelly about milk.
Yeah, Joey nails it.
Yeah.
You saw his last week on the baseball broadcast versus basketball broadcast?
Sure.
That was hilarious.
No time during hoops. Storytell during baseball. What kind of savage puts mayo on his peanut butter sandwich? 2-2 count.
Got to call the cops on my partner here for being clinically insane.
That's all right. So we are back tomorrow at 4 on Hail Varsity. And we'll check in with Nick Handley, of course, at 3:30 tomorrow. It's Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. And tomorrow, Coach Leach. Excited for that. Big thanks to Coach Rick Kaczenski today, Mitch Sherman today, and Better Call Saul aficionado Mike St. James. Talk to you tomorrow at 4. See ya.
A Hurrdat Media Production.